listening to Overwatch League Daily, your daily source for Overwatch League news, scores, and more. Here's your host, KickedTripod.
Good morning, Overwatch League fans. This is a very special episode of Overwatch League Daily. Yesterday, I got to sit down with San Francisco Shock coach Dylan O'Donnell, also known as LegitRc. He's got a very extensive resume in Overwatch coaching specifically, and he sat down and talked a little bit about some of the philosophies that the coaching staff has, how they're integrating Super and Sinatra, and more. Sorry for not getting this out to you guys yesterday. It was my birthday. That's all that needs to be said. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Enjoy the interview, and we'll be back, of course, tomorrow with another episode of Overwatch League Daily. So I think first question first, and something that's on a lot of people's mind for the San Francisco Shock is Sinatra and Super. Obviously, they're not old enough to play just yet, but I was really curious on how you guys are going to be incorporating Sinatra and Super into scrims as far as like timelines and what roles that they might be playing in those.
So we've already been... with Super and Sinatra, Super especially, they've already been coming into our practices and giving feedback and kind of being like their own player type coaches. But when it comes to scrims, they haven't been in yet. But with our contenders roster, who the roster isn't announced yet, but they will be participating in some of the scrims with them until late February. Late February will be is when Sinatra will be implemented into our Overwatch League team scrims. Right now, it's looking like he might be a tracer, but we aren't sure exactly yet on what roles they're going to fill come time. Then Super will be implemented into our Overwatch League scrims between the second and third split.
Interesting. That's coming up really soon. It's exciting to see these players. I've been waiting to watch Sinatra for a long time. Something I wanted to ask you too is a little bit more about your personal experience, and you've obviously been coaching around for a while, but how has coaching and the job of coach changed from before, where we didn't have the structure of Overwatch League, and now we obviously have Overwatch League and academy teams and contenders and open division?
In the past 5 weeks, I've learned a lot, especially with our Overwatch, how Overwatch League schedule is. With 2 matches a week, there's only a few days prepared for each match. And you always have to find new ways to prep the team in a short amount of time. We're still getting like a new system down, and there will be there's a lot of nights where the coaching staff we just do not sleep that entire night because we're up all night trying to prepare for the upcoming matches. But I feel like once we have more time, we'll have a really good system down going forward.
Do you think that coaching right now is doing a lot of like catching up and putting a system in place? Do you think that especially that time requirement, 'cause that sounds really difficult. I only get like 6 or 7 hours of sleep a night and I'm like dying. Do you think that that'll start to ease up a little bit as there's a little bit more structure around the franchise and what that looks like?
I think especially considering now this is going to like the Apex and Apex coaches, like they're familiar with this type of rigorous schedule, right? Whereas a lot of the Western coaches and Western teams aren't familiar with this yet. We're still new to it. So we're having to figure this out as we go along. I do think once we have more time and once we figure out the system and the infrastructure and the structure that we want to place in the team, it'll be a much easier time moving forward.
Interesting.
And it's coming up on the end of the first stage, and just the amount of progress that you see a lot of teams have from the beginning and towards the end of the first split is drastic, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And especially within our own team as well.
Definitely.
We're getting down a system and we're refining it.
You're a coach. I'm going to assume that you're pretty familiar with the other coaches around the league. In your opinion, who are the best coaches in competitive Overwatch right now?
I do think the Apex coaches, just because of they've done this all before. So like coaches like Pavan and Always Oof, these guys are they're familiar with this type of setting. So they came into this league a step ahead. But we're catching up.
You are. I mean, and from your perspective, I mean, what do you think the Shock's your squad's biggest strengths are right now at this point in the stage?
I mean, we're a really young roster, and so we have a lot to improve on and potential and room to grow. So I think that's like our biggest, just our overall potential is our biggest strength.
Potential. Do you think your team has any kind of glaring weaknesses right now?
Historically, our composure on stage is our biggest weakness. Our team wears their heart on their sleeves, so we just need more experience to get over the stage frights.
That's fair. Have you done the Baby Bay challenge? I haven't seen because
I did it twice, both times with Harsha. So.
Of course you did it with Harsha.
Yeah.
Makes perfect.
We're roommates, so we do everything together. I just brought him some coffee.
That's adorable. I know Harsha's been on the show actually, and so
yeah, he mentioned it.
Yeah, he's I would say he's a good friend. So that's really cool.
I'll tell him that.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing with the Shock, and one thing that I keep hearing kind of over and over about the Shock is it's not if, it's when. It's not if they're going to bloom into a great team, it's when. You guys obviously went with a roster that, as you said, is probably one of the youngest. I think
we are the youngest.
I would bet on that. I don't have the data to back it up, but I would bet that the youngest roster, you brought in some players kind of like the Uprising that maybe people didn't know about right away, like Sleepy. Sleepy has really solidified himself as one of the kind of staple Zenyatta players right now. And he plays it really well, and if you watch his stream, it's really fun to watch him just eat tracers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is kind of off the cuff here, but how did you guys come across players like Sleepy?
So I didn't come into the team until later on, after the full roster was already picked up and signed. Besides Nevix, I came over from Cloud9 with Nevix.
Sure.
But I do know that Sleepy was trying out for the Shock team for 2 months, and they kept bringing in people, to try out for that position, try out for that spot, and Sleepy just kept coming out ahead.
Do you have any kind of takes on what you expect the stage 2 meta to kind of do for the Shock? Do you think that you're going to be entering a more favorable meta for your team?
I think, I think it'll be more in our favor. But it's hard to tell right now. I'll say the tournament that just happened. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Beat.
But the one with the Beat, yes,
Yeah.
the Beat tournament. The finals went back to old meta, Lucio, Genji, Dive. So maybe that's what will turn out to be in the second stage. Who knows though? I definitely didn't expect the meta to turn out how it is now, going into it. And it's mostly because of, we're constantly playing in a LAN environment. People never really played Widow before. But they found out how the hit reg on LAN is crazy. So
yeah,
all these guys that love playing Widowmaker and these hit scan gods just picked it up instantly because it feels good.
Yeah, I bet. I'm jealous. I want to play on those LAN servers. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy, and I know that you basically don't sleep, so I don't want to take away from your lack of no sleep. But thank you so much for taking some time and giving us some insight into what the Shock are up to and what you're doing on that squad. I really appreciate it, and I'm definitely rooting for you guys.
Thank you for having me, John.
My thanks to Dylan for sharing some of his insights on the San Francisco Shock and his coaching career. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at LegitRc, and also make sure to follow the San Francisco Shock on Twitter at SFShock. That's going to do it for this episode of Overwatch League Daily. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Moira, and we're going to go ahead and discuss the stage playoffs that are going on basically right now. See you next time.